In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. Today we're not drinking anything at all.
Ugh.
Because we are at Joe's offices and it's daytime.
We do have beer in the fridge though.
There's beer right outside that door.
There's beer everywhere.
Which we are not drinking because we are professionals. And the reason that we're at Joe's work is because, it's a really long, boring story about cars. Which I'm
Too many cars. Yeah. Need to return a car.
But there's exciting news, isn't there, Joe? Because what's happened this week? Oh my God.
What's happened this week?
I got through to the finals of the UK Aerial
I thought we were
Performance
talking
Championship.
businesses or something.
Ooh. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to tell them how I did?
So Vicky was in a competition, what was it, 10 days ago?
Yeah.
Where she did very well. And they had multiple heats across the country. And the top three go through to the final. So
top three from the whole UK.
Top three from the whole UK.
And internationally, actually.
Yeah, some video submissions and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And Vicky is into the final in pole position, which is excellent.
Which is really exciting. And then we performed at our little studio showcase as well on Saturday night, and that went really well. I did better in that than I did at the competition.
Yeah, less stress, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I've already started working on my finals routine with Ed. I had my first private lesson yesterday.
Hi, Ed.
Hiya. And that was really cool. And I've got a whole new set of bruises now.
Nice.
And I think I might have crushed my left ovary. So that's fun. Good job I'm not planning to use it. Right, so, yeah, what are we talking about this week?
I have no idea. I've just sat down.
I know, because I am a professional. Oh, you need to turn that off.
There's a phone bingle. That's not very professional.
Just as I say, because I'm a professional, you have a phone bingle.
Oh, God.
Is that ironic?
No.
Alanis Morissette would say it was ironic.
Yeah, she'd be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right then, so we are talking about today how to avoid looking like an amateur. Which is ironic.
Turn off your phone bingles.
Yeah, turn off your phone bingles if you're recording something. Specifically, we're talking, I'm going to be talking about books, but it's not just about books, it's about products, services, packaging, marketing, everything you do, really.
Presentation thereof.
And this isn't about some kind of wanky business definition of professional where you'll get kind of boring people on LinkedIn being like, that's not very professional, if you're kind of swearing or, wearing, something that shows your tattoos. Those people can basically fuck right off. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a difference between being boring and being professional for a start. And you would never catch me wearing a grey suit because that's just not my style. Mm-hmm. I don't care where I am, what I'm doing, it's not going to happen. And being professional doesn't mean being somebody else. Being professional means showing up, doing the best job you possibly can, and giving people a great experience.
So there are some things that are universally professional, aren't there?
Yeah, showing up on time.
Doing
what you said you'd do.
Indeed.
Preferably going above and beyond the call of duty, I think. There's a bunch of stuff, but none of that has anything to do with this kind of constructed idea of professionalism that I would say is quite an old-fashioned way of doing business.
It's like wear a suit. Make sure your shoes are shiny.
Make sure that you're at your desk between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And it's like, well, actually, if I'm getting all the work done, why should I be at my desk between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.? Honestly, I'm talking more about kind of having a job now than running a business. But the same thing applies. You get the work done. So, but what I also think is important is not looking like an amateur, which has nothing to do with any of. Well, it does have something to do with all of that stuff, but. People will, if you look amateurish, people will assume you're an amateur, rightly or wrongly. So I'm talking specifically about books here, but it applies to everything, really. So just because you're DIY or self-published or whatever, there's no reason to look like an amateur. And if you go out and look for, on Amazon, self-published books, there's a lot of self-published Kindle books, you will see that a lot of them look really amateurish. Their covers look like I made them. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, I could do a better job than most of them because I know the principles of design and stuff. But think about really cheap pulp paperbacks, the kind that you used to get. The covers kind of look amateurish, don't they? And there's a certain charm to that kind of book. I
love a good dystopian sci-fi 60s pulp fiction.
Yeah, and so that kind of amateurish design has its place. But if you produce a business book that looks like 1960s sci-fi dystopian fiction, A, people are going to assume that it's a fiction dystopian.
In the 60s, yeah.
And B, they're going to assume that everything in your book and everything that you do in your business is as amateurish as your cover looks. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important, this is. Your book cover is like the red lipstick, I think. It's like your red lipstick. It is the first thing that people will notice. Mm-hmm. I suppose it could also, I'm going to go off on a tangent now, it could also be likened to the deep V-neck of your dress. If you've got a lot of cleavage on display, it's like your cleavage. Anyway, it's I've gone off on a bit of a...
Yeah, it's what people see. I mean, if your book's going to be in a bookshop, it's going to be next to a whole bunch of other books.
Yes.
If your book is going on Amazon, the covers are all going to be in much the same way next to each other with other books of a similar genre in a similar field.
Yes.
So
if yours looks like it's been put together by your neighbour's 3-year-old toddler, then it's going to stand out for all the wrong reasons, and people will be like, well, I'm not buying that book because it looks like a toddler's written it.
Yeah.
So this is why it's important. People will judge you by your book cover. And this is what it's like when people say, oh, don't judge a book by its cover. It's one of the stupidest phrases in the English language.
Well, they're not actually talking about books, are they?
No, but it applies to everything because we make snap judgments based on the first impression that we get. It's how we are wired.
Yes.
So to say, don't judge a book by its cover, or don't judge a person by, I don't know, their hairstyle. Or how they dress, but you instantly do. And it's like, hopefully most people will have enough critical thought to go, okay, that was a bad first impression, but I'm going to step back and get to know that person. They're not going to do that with your book.
No.
They are not going to do that with your book. They're not going to do it with your website, with your packaging, with your marketing. If the first impression that people get from you is that you're amateur, there are plenty of other options for people out there, and they will go looking for something else. So whilst I agree with the sentiment of don't judge a book by its cover when it comes to getting to know people
and haircuts
and things,
shoes,
I still think, a lot of people, they're not going to give you a second chance. They're just not, because they're busy and lazy.
And somebody else is calling for their attention just over there.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, people are going to judge your book by its cover. And they're going to judge your business by your website and the packaging of your goods and services and your sales pages. And that is just the way the world is. Might not be fair. Well, the world's not fair. Get over it. So
reasonable.
Yes. You only generally get the chance to make your first impression once. You're probably not going to get a chance to make a second impression, not in today's business landscape, because there's just too many other options for people. So let me ask you a question, dear listener. How much work have you put into your book or your product or your company? I'm hoping.
So if you're writing a book, you're going to spend
weeks.
Hundreds of hours on it.
Yeah.
Hundreds of hours.
Probably. At the very least, a solid week. Like if you compressed it all, at the very least, a solid week. I would think. For a short book, for a longer book, it's going to be longer. Depending on, when you're doing it, how you're doing it. It's going to have been a lot of blood, sweat and tears. And it's the same with the business you've built up as well. Mm-hmm. You put a lot of work into it. So please do that work justice. Don't slap a quick cover on the front of your book and try and save money there by doing it yourself or getting the cheapest possible, because it's a massive false economy. And it's not doing your work any justice either.
No, for sure.
It's the same with your website. When people, always baffles me when I understand that not everybody has loads of money to throw around, but it always baffles me when I see, and this is usually in Facebook groups, certain networking Facebook groups, and they'll be like, oh, I'm after a copywriter or a website designer, and looking for the cheapest, and I'm like, wow, is that really literally how little you value your business and what you have to offer? So okay, I understand that not everybody has a lot of money to throw around, particularly at the beginning, but there are ways to do it that are less expensive, but that are still not going to make you look like an amateur. So just bear that in mind next time you're thinking, oh, I can't afford this, that, or the other. It's like, well, can you afford not to do it properly is the thing. If you've put all of this effort into something and then you cut corners and go cheap and have something that makes you look cheap and nasty, then nobody's going to want to buy your stuff, and it's a
particularly not the the prestige customers, the people who want the really great service and they're prepared to pay for it and they're really switched on and comfortable with spending money on something that's quality and excellent.
Yeah.
If your product doesn't look like that, then they're not going to buy it.
No.
And if your product looks like it's £1 a square metre carpet, you're only going to sell it to people who've got nearly no money.
Yeah, and that's not the kind of people that you want to be doing business with. And I'm not talking about this is like another wormhole I'm going to disappear down, because I know that there are going to be people listening going, there should be something in the market for everybody. Yeah, there should be choices for everybody at whatever price point they are at. You've got to decide who you want to serve. Do you want to serve that bottom end of the market? If you do, all power to you. Go for it. You're going to find it very, very difficult. And there is no reason why you can't, later do something for the people who can't afford your higher end products. And that's another argument for writing a book, in fact. Not everybody, most people are not going to be able to afford my ghostwriting services. And I can't physically work with that many people anyway. A lot of people are not going to be able to afford my book writing courses and coaching. That's fine, which is why I'm writing my book, because almost every business owner can afford 20 quid to spend on a book that will teach them how to do it.
Sure.
And that's how you can serve the other parts of your market. And, I've seen this work for me, because my first book, Business for Superheroes, I actually sent a free copy to someone, and I do send free copies to people when, if I think if they write to me and say, I'm saving up for your book, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just give me your address, I'll send you a copy. And those people have done everything I've told them to in the book and have lifted their business to the extent that they can then join my membership group, which is awesome. And so I have helped them and I've helped myself. And it's a win-win for everybody. So there are ways to help the lower end of the market, but what you've got to decide is, who do you want to serve with your products and your services? And regardless of whether you're serving the bottom end of your market, your book still has to look professional, because that's not the only people who are going to read it. I get clients as well, high-end clients also are going to, I write my books so that I can help people at the lower end, but it's there to attract people at the higher end. So it has to do both of those things.
The higher end people tend to read your book, go, that's brilliant, loved it. Now can you do it for me?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly, Joe's just summed it up. Whereas the people who haven't got the money for me to do it for them are going to read it and be like, right, I'm going to do this myself. Or make a start anyway. And they're going to use it and do it themselves. Most people won't. Some people will.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. So this is why it's really, really important. People are going to judge you on what your book looks like, and you're not going to attract those higher end clients if your cover looks crap. So how do you avoid looking like an amateur? Good question, Vicky. I'm not talking to myself. Rule number 1. Unless you are a designer or an illustrator, please do not design your own book cover or packaging or website.
Start in Word, draw a big rectangle, write your title in Comic Sans across the top.
Oh, God.
Then find yourself an illustrator or a designer.
Yeah. And I work with Julia Brown, who is just awesome.
Hi, Julia.
And she's amazing. She is also high-end, and she's reassuringly expensive, and she does amazing packages, because she does much more than just book covers. She understands the publishing industry. She understands the principles of readability and direct response design and all the rest of it. So she's far more than just an illustrator. There are other very good designers, book cover designers, that you can find all over the place for a lot. You'll get a much more basic service. They're very, very good. Find somebody who's good, look at their previous examples and find something that you think works really, really well. And then when you've got the money, get someone like Julia to do it for you. I would never go with anyone except Julia, because she's awesome. So just please don't do it yourself unless you have design experience. I promise you, it will end up looking like a dog's dinner. It really will. So please don't do that. With the title, don't be too clever. Don't try and be too clever, because people won't get it.
No puns.
No puns. I don't know. There is a place for stuff like that, but the point is, if you have a title that doesn't really mean that much, a subtitle has got to explain it. What people are going to get in the book. So if you think about the questions people have in their heads when they're looking for the answers that your book or product or service will give them, that should be incorporated into your title and subtitle or your product name. Super important. It's like clickbait for your book cover, really.
Sure.
It needs to be there. And it needs to, so my book title is How the Hell Do You Write a Book? A lot of people will say, well, that's not professional. But that's exactly the question a lot of people have in their heads.
Yeah.
So it's a really good book title, even if I say so myself. Okay, so that's the cover. There's a bunch of design stuff. If you buy my new book, which is out at the end of June, beginning of July, there's a whole chapter on how to sort out your cover and make it look fabulous and compelling.
Cool.
So people want to buy it. Now let's go inside the book, because this is where it gets a bit tricky, and this is where you can definitely spot amateur.
Okay.
And DIY, and the things that really scream this book has been self-published, because there is no reason in this day and age why your self-published book shouldn't look exactly as good as something published by Penguin Random House or HarperCollins or any of the other big publishers. So typeface. Let's just go on a little nerdy safari about do you know the difference between typeface and font, Joe?
Typeface and font? No, not really.
No, because most people say font when what they mean is typeface. I'm going to be really picky about it. So printers, in the olden days, used to hand set type. And they used to have to pull actual metal letters and numbers and symbols out of a box. And you can buy those, and they're beautiful things. You can buy them from junk shops and stuff. So that's the typeface is the look and feel of all of the characters in the font, but the font is a collection of characters in the box.
The font is a collection of characters in a box.
And the typeface is the look and feel of them all. So when we talk about Times New Roman or Arial or something like that, we're talking about typeface. The individual symbols, A, B, C, D, they're the fonts.
I thought the box was called the font.
No, the collection of characters in the box is called a font. So the collection is the font. So there is a difference.
Okay.
And when you're choosing your typeface, readability is the most important thing of all, because if people can't read your book, they are not going to read it. So think about how old your ideal reader is, for a start. If you're aiming a book at old people, you want your typeface to be big.
Okay.
You want it to be big enough to read comfortably. Obviously, this does not matter for ebooks, because you can change the typeface and you can change the size.
Sure.
But for printed books, you've got to think about how old are your readers. You want them to be big enough to read without being too big, because if it's too big, it
looks like a children's book.
It looks like a children's book, or it looks like a book that's aimed at people with, special needs or reading, which is fine. If that's what your book is aimed at, that's fine. But if it's just aimed at, your regular bog standard business owner, you want it to not look, you don't want it to be too big, basically. And if you have a look at different books on your shelf, you'll see, there are differences, and you'll say, oh, that one's a little bit too small to read comfortably, and oh, that one looks a bit big, it's a bit odd. And you want it also to be easy to read, which means that in print, your typeface wants to be serif. And when I say serif, that's it has tails.
Tails and embellishments.
Tails and embellishments. And the reason that we choose serif font for printed books, for the main body of the text, is because it helps your eye to flow from letter to letter, because we don't read, and you'll notice this, if you try and read something that's set in all capital letters, it takes a long time to read, and the reason is because they all look the same. They're all the same shape. All the letters are the same shape. So you read the word letter by letter. We don't read words letter by letter, which is why you don't spot typos half the time. And it's why you don't spot, do you remember that thing that goes around Facebook every now and then? It's like, oh, did you spot the mistake? And I said the word the twice. You're not going to spot that, because you don't read word by word, letter by letter. You read by the shapes and things. So the little tails on the serif typeface helps your eye to make sense of the shapes of the words. Having said that, if you're writing specifically for a dyslexic audience or somebody or other people with learning difficulties, a sans serif font is actually easier for people to read, which is really interesting. Okay. So there's a lot of research been done on this, but unless you're specifically writing for a dyslexic audience, you need to choose a serif typeface because it's easier to read. And familiarity is important as well. So you think about most books and newspapers, it's all serif type. It's what we're used to. If you give people something that is like wildly different from normal, it's going to stick out for all the wrong reasons. It's going to distract from the message. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. By the way, if you want fonts and typefaces and things, then dafont.com, which is DAFONT, is a really good place to get free and paid for typefaces.
Nice.
And I always say to my clients when you're deciding what typeface to choose, because it says a lot about your personality as well, and there are lots of good ones that will work, but that might not be, very familiar. I use Baskerville, by the way. I love Baskerville.
Okay.
But if you have a look in books and find something you like, and it doesn't always tell you in the book what the book's set in, you can go to whatfontis.com and upload a picture of it.
All right.
And it'll tell you.
It'll tell you.
How cool is that?
Nice.
Yeah. So, sure sign of an amateur book writer, too many different typefaces.
Because you might choose different typefaces for action boxes or extra bits or the
titles and headings.
Okay.
So in my book, the main typeface is Baskerville. The main typeface is Baskerville, and the titles and headings. I have calluses on my hands from trapeze, and I pick at them.
Developing an obsessive pick.
They're just annoying. I need a shaver. So yeah, Baskerville is the main body typeface, and then for the headings and titles, I use a basic sans serif one, and I use Roboto.
Okay.
Because I like it. You don't want any more than two, really. And what's the different sizes? So titles are big, Roboto. Subtitles are smaller, Roboto. And the main body of the text is Baskerville. You could, I suppose, do captions and boxes in a different typeface again, but I think that's getting a little bit
much.
A little bit much, yeah. There are different ways to make it stand out than if you put it in a box. So too many typefaces, sure sign of an amateur. Sorry, that's true.
Yeah.
With spacing and layout as well, there are three main mistakes that rookie writers make. Number one,
not enough space between lines and paragraphs, and between elements like headers, footers, page numbers, page edges, any images and titles and whatnot.
Yes, you don't want it all squashed up and looking crowded, because it's difficult to read and it looks boring, and it just is busy. I find it a bit stressful when books are too crowded.
Too crowded.
Yeah,
definitely.
Second mistake.
Boring headers or chapter designs.
Yeah.
What's a chapter design?
Okay, so chapter designs. In my book, which is coming out at the end of June, early July, you will notice that there's a little graphical element at the beginning of each chapter, and it's just a little quill pen, just a little squiggle. You don't have to do it, but I like the chapter headings to look interesting enough, because it's a visual element to the design of the interior of the book. You want it to be interesting enough for people to read on, and that might just be putting a different shading across it, or putting it in a box, or doing something to make it stand out.
Illuminated first letters or something.
Yeah, something like that. There are many things you could do. I like just a little graphical element, which I haven't paid a designer to do. It's super easy. You can go to, I think mine were free, and all I'm doing is crediting in the acknowledgements, I'm crediting where I got them from. But if you can just Google free graphical elements and find loads of them that people make available.
Cool.
I've got little tiny beetle icons for my tiny beetle steps in my book as well.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. So third mistake.
Third mistake would be too much decoration. Going wild with the squiggles and images and stuff and additions.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to go too crazy. So a nice middle Goldilocks ground between boring and
just lots of stuff.
Yeah. Strange fonts come under that as well. There is actually a font that is made out of little dragons.
Right.
It's totally unreadable, unsurprisingly. So please don't set any of your anythings in a typeface that's really difficult to read.
Sure.
Because nobody will read it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Other mistakes that are made with spacing and layout. Blank pages should be blank. Sounds pretty obvious, but if there is, and the reason for that, because people have said to me, well, why would you have blank pages at all?
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my humble but correct opinion, that chapters should start on the right-hand page. That is the norm in the publishing industry. It's what people expect. You don't have to. There are books out there that start with the chapter on the left-hand page. I like to start my chapters on the right-hand page.
Okay.
And that means sometimes there is a blank left-hand page on the page before it. That blank page shouldn't have anything on it.
Not a thing on it.
Just not a thing on it. And also you might find at the end of your book, there are blank pages as well. And that's to do with how many pages your book has.
Yes,
because
that's a formal book.
Yeah, because printers tend to, they work with big sheets of paper and then they chop them up. And that's how they print your book. And that's the most economical way to do it as well. It's not, you're not kind of thinking, oh, that's a real waste of paper. It's actually not a waste of paper. It's the most efficient way to do it. So if you've got blank pages, they should be blank. Right at the beginning of the book as well, where you've got your copyright page, your table of contents, anything that comes before the first main body of the book, like the preface, anything that comes before that, you shouldn't have page numbers or headers on it.
Right.
It should just be not blank pages because you've obviously got stuff on it, but nothing in the headers and footers. So that's kind of one of those things that would make me think amateur if you've got a book where the page numbering starts at 1 on the first page. Because there shouldn't be any page numbers there. The page numbering shouldn't start until the book itself starts, which is after the table of contents. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Be consistent. You know, if your chapter headings start halfway down, which I like to do, then they should all start halfway down. If you're putting a summary at the end in a box, that should be the same all the way through. Don't mix and match things because it just looks a mess. Running headers and footers are a good thing to have if you want to look professional.
Running headers and footers.
Yes. So you'll have you can put your page number at the bottom or the top, in a corner or in the middle. Doesn't matter where, just be consistent. Same with your headers and footers. So if you look at most books, the way I like to do it is on the left-hand side in the header, I will have the title of the book.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side in the header, I will have the chapter title that I'm on at the moment, because it helps the reader to navigate.
Okay.
So if you're just flipping through a book and you think, oh, I can't be bothered to look at the table of contents or whatever, or you just open a book and you think, oh, that's the chapter I'm on at the moment. I'm on a chapter about how not to look like an amateur. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so.
And you can put that at the top or the bottom. Yeah.
Cool.
Printing and binding. What's your top tip for printing?
It's got to be good quality, isn't it? It's got to be good quality. You need to not be able to read the previous page as you're reading this page. It needs to not transfer or be thin.
Yeah.
Thin rubbish paper.
At least 250 GSM.
Okay. What's the GSM stand for?
Grams per square metre.
Good. And you prefer cream, not white.
I do prefer cream, yeah. I prefer an off-white piece of paper. And if you look at 2 books side by side, like pure white versus off-white, I think the pure white just looks a bit cheaper.
Okay.
I don't like it. That is
purely...
Stark. It is a bit stark, yeah. And that's another thing, actually, that's another really good point that I'd forgotten about, is black on white it actually reduces readability because the contrast is too great. So black on cream, or, dark grey on cream, actually makes it easier to read. That is a personal preference for me. I'm not going to be like, you can't have white pages. I just think it looks better.
I think, to me, white pages makes it look like a textbook.
I thought you were going to say that. And
cream makes it look like a book I might enjoy reading. I don't know why, but that's kind of how it feels to me.
That's a really good point, actually. I would be interested to see if anybody else associates white pages with textbooks and boring and being forced to learn stuff at school. Because I think you might be right about that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I am sometimes right.
I know. Interesting point, Joe.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to put that in my book.
Yeah.
Will you remind me?
I'll try.
Because as soon as we stop doing this, I'll forget instantly.
Okay.
Cool. Fact checking. Oh my God. Check your facts. I know from painful experience, in the first edition of my first book, there is a little pile of bullshit in there that still makes me want to cry. It's not the most important thing in the world, but I still feel shame.
Really?
Yeah. Because I just didn't check it. And it turned out that it was a statistic that's been bandied around and has no origin anywhere.
It's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's just one of the internet statistics.
Oh dear.
I know. I mean, I think it's probably not far off the mark in terms of truth, but it's not. Oh, shame overload.
Okay.
So yeah, check your facts. If you can't find proof of something, I'd take it out, or say, I cannot find any proof of this, but I feel like it's probably correct. At which point people can make their own minds up.
And ignore you.
And ignore you if they want, yes. Right then, so get expert help when you need it. That's the final thing. Expert help when you need it. I think that's the takeaway for this week.
Get expert help.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, Don't. We're done. That's how to avoid looking like an amateur.
Blimey.
I know.
That was easy.
Yeah. All of that, even though we're talking specifically about books here, a lot of this stuff applies to everything you do in your marketing.
Yeah, there are similar rule sets.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, on your website, on your brochures, in your adverts, whatever it might be you're doing.
Yeah. It's got to be readable. It's got to look consistent and not messy. For the love of God, unless you are producing something for a primary school, please don't use Comic Sans. Please. Because you see it and you think it's written for children. It's actually a really good typeface to use in schools for children because it's easy to read and it looks fun. It has inappropriate everywhere else.
Yeah.
Comic Sans has a bit of a bad rep, really. It does have its place. Just not in your book.
The place is not in your business.
Or on your website.
Unless you actually are a clown. Then maybe it's in your business.
Or a primary school. In which case, go wild. Right then. What are we doing? What's going on in superheroes land at the moment?
Well, this time next month, are we in Portugal?
No, 2 months.
2 months. 2 months. Oh, yeah. Okay, so end of July, we're in Portugal doing Breaking Bread.
The 4th International Breaking Bread.
4th International Breaking Bread.
And if you would like to have delicious food served to you by handsome men in tiny shorts, which is going to be Joe and Berto.
Hi, Berto.
And if you would like me and Misty to lend you our brains and sort out your biggest, thorniest business issues, and also send you away with an outline for a book or product and a 2-step funnel to sell the thing, which is what you'll get, as well as your hot seat, your personal hot seat.
Also, beautiful weather.
Beautiful weather.
Interesting people.
Really interesting people, including top A-list copywriter from the States who consistently outperforms and beats names you will definitely have heard of.
Excellent.
And one of my clients, who is a fantastically inspirational businesswoman,
Superb.
who owns 6 law firms, plus a host of other businesses that she is making a massive success. It's just interesting people. Come along.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
There's 3 spaces left at time of recording. They might have gone by the time you hear this. You can go to breakingbreadmasterminds.com. The URL is in the show notes. If you've listened to every episode of this podcast, you lunatic, email me with your postal address and I will send you a special gift. Don't get your hopes up. And if you like this podcast, what should people do?
5 stars.
Where?
Everywhere.
Where?
iTunes would be good.
Yeah. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We're on Spotify now.
Ooh.
Subscribe. Share it. Leave us a review. Please leave us a review. We like reviews. I haven't checked for a while. We might have new reviews. We might have a 1-star review. That would be upsetting. 5-star reviews, please. And we'll be back same time next week, and we will be talking about... Oh, good Lord, what will we be talking about?
Whatever pops into your head.
No, you know what? Let's talk about the Great Wall of Pain.
The Great Wall of Pain?
Yes.
Okay.
The Great Wall of Pain, which will be, again, specific to writing books. That was me typing this, so I don't forget. The Great Wall of Pain, which everybody faces at some point during their business.
Okay.
And how to get over it.
Cool.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Joe.
No worries.
And thanks for listening, listeners. And thanks to Podfly for always making our podcasts sound wonderful.
Hi, Podfly guys.
Hi. And thank you, as always, to Harriet, my beautiful assistant, who just makes my life so much easier.
Hi, Harriet.
Hi, Harriet. We'll be back same time next week. Bye.
Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.